Hey there, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Andrew Kimmel. He is a journalist, filmmaker who's been reporting in Ukraine, Moldova, and is going to be on the move again soon. You've been doing great work out there, not just journalistically, but you're actually doing humanitarian work too, which will play some of those videos. Just tell people you're independent journalist. What made you want to go over there and kind of talk about what you have been seeing as far as the humanitarian crisis?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you for having me on. I used to be the head of live video for BuzzFeed News. I left the company back in 2018 and was doing a lot of my own independent journalism, a lot of live on the ground reporting. And prior to my time at BuzzFeed, I got my start doing live video, covering things like Standing Rock and also the Syrian refugee crisis, which is really where that was my first experience with refugees and just the horrible journey that they have to take. And that was incredibly eye-opening for me. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, the first thought that came to my mind was, this is going to be a serious humanitarian crisis with refugees. What can I do? How can I get over there? So more so on the humanitarian side versus the independent journalism side, my plan was to come out to Europe and figure out, what are the needs of those that are crossing the border, and how can I be, I guess, best of use to those that are crossing. So yeah, I mean, that's essentially a little bit about why I'm here. The reason I chose Moldova out of any country, I was looking out of all places on Twitter and saw that there was already a huge response on the ground in Poland. But here in Moldova, it's a very small country and it's very difficult to get to. I spoke with an organization that was on the ground, asked them what the scene was like, and they said, we need help. So that was why I decided to go to Moldova, where right now the entire airspace around the country is closed. The fastest way in was flying to Bucharest and then taking a 10-hour bus to here, Chisinau, which is the capital city.
Yeah. And to the audience, just, obviously he's in Moldova, so connection's good enough, I think, but it's not, there will be some hiccups, which is fine. I also want to show a clip just of one of the examples of the humanitarian work you've been doing. This is an 84-year-old woman that you helped get out of Odessa, which was really for being attacked, and you brought her to Moldova. Let's take a look.
Andrew, да. Andrew. Спасибо. Сейчас. Спасибо. Hello. Здрасте. Шалом. Здрасте. Хорошо, что вы провалились. Молодец. Эндрю, thank you. Спасибо, thank you. Это Гершон, тоже мы с Эндрю вместе и с Мишей вместе на связи. Сейчас расскажу дальше. Да, очень классно. Что молодцы, что прорвались. Да.
She's very happy.
Да. Да.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Very, very much.
О, у вас там замечательный английский язык. У вас замечательный английский язык.
Can you kind of talk about, because I don't know if you've been paying attention here, but there's a lot of journalists and a lot of quote unquote leftists really talking about the U.S. role in causing this, NATO's aggressiveness, all this. There's legitimacy to, NATO, breaking promises and things like that. But in my view, those journalists kind of here and there are papering over the fact that Russia has invaded another country and is killing a lot of people and causing havoc. Tell from your point of view, obviously, it's not Russia is the aggressor here, but were the people you have spoken with, were they expecting this? Were they shocked? What has it been like for them? Because from what I saw, a lot of before the invasion, a lot of people in Ukraine did not believe this was going to happen.
Yeah, I would say every single person that I spoke to could not believe that Russia actually moved forward with the invasion, and still cannot believe that this is something that's happening. My driver who took us from the border into Odessa One of the things he said was, I can't believe A, that this is happening, and then B, that I had to drive my mother and my wife and my daughter to the border to go escape to Germany, where my great grandfather, had to escape when the Nazis were there. So it's such a weird reversal for a lot of people, and people that never expected to have to be in this situation, which is a lot of times the case with refugees. It's just something that no one, I think, expected to actually happen. It was in the back of their minds. Some people were more prepared than others. Others also have more means to escape faster than others, which we saw, the first week. A lot of people were able to escape in their own vehicles and get hotels, outside of the country. But what we're seeing now is, a lot of people that didn't have the means, that have to take public transport, where a lot of those public lines have been, completely screwed up because of shelling from Russia. If you look at Mariupol, they couldn't even get out, and they still can't get out. They're trying to get humanitarian lines in, and in some sort of agreement with Putin, which, is a very scary thing. But that's where we're at right now. Is there's still some people trickling out. Where I am in Moldova, actually, there was it was a very strange reversal, where the first 2 weeks I was here, it was nonstop flow of people coming over. And then the last few days, because where I am is about an hour from Odessa, there's a lot of Ukrainians going back in past the border to Ukraine, to Odessa, because they're either running out of money, their husbands or sons or fathers are still there because of the conscription. They can't leave Ukraine. So people wanted to go back to Odessa to be with their family. And then the third thing is Odessa still hasn't really necessarily been attacked. There have been some shelling on the outskirts of the city, but the city itself directly has not been attacked yet. So people feel like it's safe to go back, which to me is a false sense of security. As we all know, Odessa is in Putin's sights. That is what he needs to have Ukraine completely landlocked and have full control of access to the sea and the ports. But again, this has now been going on for more than a month. And a lot of the Ukrainians where I am, they look at Odessa and say, well, he's got his hands full. We're going to go back. We're going to go back home because it's safe enough.
So you're seeing people now who came over to Moldova moving backwards and going back into Ukraine.
Yeah, so the last 3 days, there was actually traffic of vehicles, Ukrainian vehicles going back into Ukraine versus people actually coming out.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And can you kind of talk about, obviously, the people, the generals on CNN and MSNBC, they seem to want this to drag out. But could you kind of talk about the people there? Have they discussed with you the U.S.'s role, whether the U.S. is doing enough? Have they felt that the U.S., what has been what you have heard about the U.S.?
To be completely honest, I haven't really spoken about the United States role. For me, again, this is more of like a humanitarian visit. The interviews that I'm getting, it's more directed towards, what are your needs? Where are you coming from? Why are you going back in? That sort of thing. I haven't really touched upon, what are your views on, the United States involvement? The times that it has come up, people have asked about a no-fly zone, which many of us know what that could lead to. But from their perspective, of course, I can understand it is a defense system that they feel is necessary to protect themselves and their loved ones. But really, that's essentially the tip of what we've spoken about, and we haven't really gone much deeper than that.
And, you've gotten some good moments, like some, more human moments, I would say, because most of what we see on news is the bombing and things like that. You had a clip at the border of kind of like a clown passing out candy to a kid. Let's show that for a minute.
Возьми. Два. Идем сюда, кто ты смеешься? Идем сюда. Раз, два. О, это хорошо, набери это.
So can you kind of talk about, as a journalist, all you see is kind of doom and gloom. I mean, you've covered protests, Black Lives Matter, kind of MAGA, things like that. Can you kind of talk about those moments, not just as a journalist, but just a person? What's it like for you being at the border, seeing these things? It must be kind of surreal.
Yeah, I would say, for me, I don't like to brand myself as a journalist. I still like to brand myself as a producer. And the reason for that, in my mind, is because I think it gives me a little more flexibility to provide assistance. Whereas as a journalist, I really would be more of a fly on the wall and just observing what's happening in front of me. And that's not something that I can do.
Right.
And so as a producer, I have that ability to film these moments. And then when I'm done filming them, actually get in there and help to where I think it's necessary. But yeah, I think an important thing for me is also, if I'm traveling across the world to come to a certain location, I don't want to be here saying and spreading the same story that everyone has already spoken about, that other journalists or producers are filming or writing about. So for me, it was, what is the human element of this? How can I humanize this crisis for people to fully understand? And that came in the form of this organization that I came across called the Dream Doctors Project. And it's a group of medical clowns that came from Israel. And I met them at a local synagogue here in Chisinau, which is the capital city of Moldova. And I was like, yeah, guys, I've got a car. Would you like to go to the border? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So the next day we drove out to the border, actually bought a lot of toys and candy for them to hand out. And that was it. And at first I was freaking out because I'm like, I personally don't like clowns. And I was scared of clowns when I was a kid. So I wasn't sure what is the reaction going to be when kids cross the border after, 24, 48 or more hours in the cold, and leaving behind their father or their brother. What is their reaction going to be? And it was so surreal to see the first person any of these kids and their family, their adults, the moms or the grandmothers would see crossing over would be these clowns. And the first sound was a laugh, and then a big smile across their face. And it was almost every single kid and adult was laughing the first second that they crossed that border. And it was magical. And there was a lot of times where, myself and I was with two other photojournalists, and we were just like look at each other and be like, this is what makes this job worth it. Because if we feel this feeling that, and we're capturing this moment and we can share that with the world, it really does humanize, and it showed, I guess, this beauty that you couldn't really see anywhere else.
Right.
And I think
also in a growing world of hot takes and sensationalism and food fights on the internet, it's nice to actually get something real and authentic.
Yeah, that is a really good point. It wasn't something that was manufactured in the sense of like, yeah, check this out. This is real humans, real joy, real pain, and just seeing this like innocence come back into these kids' faces and lives, albeit for a brief moment, but just something positive with everything negative that's currently going on.
And, I want to ask you, obviously, you've done some other humanitarian work. Can you kind of talk about, obviously there's been a different response from Europe, America to Ukrainian refugees, not that they shouldn't be supported, they should, as compared to Syria, Somalia, Yemen, Afghanistan. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's kind of tough because on one end, all of them should be supported, and I'm totally for what you're doing. But obviously, there is a racial element here.
100%. I think the first thing that I noticed when I went to a refugee shelter here was we were inside a government building where refugees had heat. They had rooms with beds. And in my mind, that was like the Ritz-Carlton compared to what I had seen when I was in Greece, and refugees were sleeping under a bridge in a tent with rats. And the food that they were given was expired UN food. I actually went into a tent with a family and ate it with them. It was atrocious. It was disgusting. And it's a completely different situation here. Now, again, that's just from what I've seen here in Moldova. I don't know what the situation is like in other countries like Slovakia or Hungary or Romania or Poland. I will know because I'm flying out there tomorrow. But based off what I saw, the treatment is vastly different.
Right. Absolutely. And lastly, anything else, you want the audience to know? Because, a lot of the coverage has been obviously about, bombing and, who will Russia, make inroads, a lot of geopolitical discussion, oil. What should people know from somebody on the ground there about kind of the human suffering going on?
Well, I would say that, a lot of the families that have come out, I don't know if they have, at least the ones that I've spoken to that have not already gone back, they don't have any intentions of going back soon. They think that this is going to take a while. Mm-hmm. And so I would say if there are people out there that are interested in helping, it will be needed. Because at some point, these local governments, especially I know in Moldova, the government is already starting to make announcements that they can't support this anymore. And I know Poland is going to start cracking down on a lot of things. So there's going to be the need for even more assistance. So if anyone is interested in terms of coming out here or being on the ground and providing assistance to those who need it most, please feel free to reach out to me. We've built a whole network of people throughout all of the bordering countries of Ukraine. And we're doing from supplies to transport to providing accommodations to, getting people from within Ukraine out to their final destination safely. So if anyone is interested in joining and taking part in helping, please feel free to reach out to me.
And how could people support your work? I know you're kind of doing humanitarian work in addition to, basic journalism, but you're independent. I'm sure it's not cheap. Where could people find your work and support you?
People can find me on Twitter. It's @AndrewKimmel, or on Facebook, @AndrewKimmel Official is my public page. Feel free to message me with any questions that you have. I did open up a GoFundMe when I first came out here. And to be honest, I'm at like $20,000 right now, which is fantastic. It's starting to dwindle, but I'm still not there yet. So if you want to support me that way, that's totally fine. And also, if you're looking for people in Ukraine on the ground, volunteers that are helping, I have some contacts as well. I know they're looking for basic necessities and supplies, as well as supplies for the army. So whatever you're interested in how you can support, I can help you out.
Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate you taking the time. Safe travels. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.